This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion here on the channel. Let me tell you, very impressed the beard's coming back so quick. That's huge. The mustache doesn't look as ridiculous. For those of you that care what the mustache looks or doesn't look like on me. Anyway, that's thought aside. Elliotte Friedman had a lot of thoughts today too. You know, he had 31, actually like 34 of them, in an article on Sportsnet.ca. And the reality of a Canadian division gets clearer and clearer by the day as the global pandemic wears on. And you know what? The interesting part here in all of this, right? There's a little connection back to the last time hockey really got messed up for a long period of time. That being the 04-05 lockout year, in which the Edmonton Oilers had an AHL team play in Edmonton. You remember that? Does anyone remember that? The Edmonton Roadrunners. Yeah, that's a heck of a long time ago, but that's a thing that happened at one point. And well, let me tell you, it's a piece of history that we all have to keep in mind. And well, it could very well repeat itself with this whole Canadian division idea. So essentially, if you're new to the Canadian division idea, maybe I should explain that before I explain what Elliotte Friedman was talking about in his 31 Thoughts column today on Sportsnet.ca. A Canadian division would consist of the Canadian teams. That's as simple as you can boil it down. I was going to list them off, but I don't have to, but I will. Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, the 7 Canadian teams. Now, across the NHL, you know what? That makes sense because there's 8, 8, 8, and 7 in a division. So you can do 3 divisions of 8 down there in the States, and then you can do the Canadian division at 7. The NHL remains in its 888-7 format. Dandy. Okay, good. All right, that's what you need to know on the Canadian division situation. Problem is, the Oilers, Canucks, and Flames all have affiliates, AHL teams, down there in California, or in Vancouver's case, in Utica. So you've got teams spread all across America that are the minor league teams for Canadian teams. That simply doesn't work with the Canadian division and the reality of how the world works right now with the global pandemic happening. There's border restrictions, there's isolation periods, there's quarantines, all that. So the Oilers and Flames and Canucks, according to Elliotte Friedman, and I will snip it out here for you as I talk about it, are looking at either centralizing or having the teams of minor leaguers who are currently all spread across Europe. Okay, that's the other funny part. They're all spread across Europe. But in point number 30, he is talking about how they're looking at centralizing or having them out of their individual NHL rinks and having their Canadian teams in the AHL play in a Canadian division in the AHL league as well. So we know they're looking to get going sometime in December, if not January, and it looks like everything probably will get going together here in January or February or whenever the heck everything gets underway. You can mention a date, but guys, that changes day by day, so I don't put too much stock into that. But right now, before I forget, I always forget to say it, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 8K, and we are like 16 subscribers off 8K. So if you want to join Dolynny TV for the upcoming season, definitely do that. 8K would be a special number. I've been chasing that a long time. So let's get to this. This depends on what happens with the border, but there is talk that Canadian-based NHL teams with US-based affiliates are considering moving them north of the 49th for the 2021 season. That's Calgary, Stockton, Edmonton, Bakersfield, and Vancouver, Utica. It makes sense because a quarantine period would mean you can't call up players. Not sure if those teams would be based out of the NHL buildings or centralized, but it is something these organizations must prepare for. And that is true, right? We must prepare for it because it's going to be an incredible mess. Getting this hockey season underway, as you saw, getting the NFL season underway, getting the MLB season underway. Minor League Baseball just up and disappeared, so it's been a crazy season. They had alternate training sites. Minor League camp... Don't even ask me how MLB made a season happen this year, but they're in the ALCS and NLCS, and everything seems okay. So, that leaves us to wonder, my goodness, how much fun could we have with 2 all-Canadian divisions of the highest levels of hockey in North America? That sounds like a ton of fun to me, right? If the Oilers are stuck playing the Flames, Canucks, Jets, Leafs, Habs, Senators, you know what? The first 4 or 5 games against each team, they'll be magical. The novelty will wear off eventually, but I imagine you're playing a total of 6 other teams, so you'll probably play them 8 times, and you'll end up with 48 games somehow. That's what I'd imagine would be how you get to the season, because if you're starting in January, we all remember how things boiled down in 2000, what was it, 12, 13? Was that the lockout year? I can remember the 04, 05 one, but I can't remember the other one. But you get where I'm going. Is it's simply, yeah, you know what? It's probably going to be an abbreviated season. Start and try to get normal for next season. So 48 games season. Compare that to the MLB's 60 out of 162. 48 is dang dandy with me at the NHL level. And the Edmonton Oilers, well, they could do some damage against the other Canadian teams. Let me tell you, yeah, sure, Flames improved a bit in net. Where else they improved, I don't really know. They added some Canucks, but the Canucks, were those the players that made the difference? Maybe a little bit, maybe not. Canucks got worse. Jets, I really don't know if the Jets know what they're doing or not. Leafs, did they get better? Maybe, maybe not. Habs, well, they signed Tyler Toffoli, and they re-signed a guy and brought in a backup goalie and stuff. And Ottawa, well, they're going to be the last place team in the Canadian division no matter what. But that is the fun part of that, right? As an Oilers fan, you can take the shells and rearrange them every which way and say this combination is what I like or this combination is what I like. And I know I've been critical of some other fans' opinions lately, but you shuffle the shells. Any way you shuffle the shells on this one, it is a fantastic outcome for Oilers fans and NHL fans in Canada. Because let me tell you, oh my goodness, imagine that every single night of the week there's a Canadian matchup on your television. Sportsnet is going to have to get really creative with TV schedules, but imagine that. Oh my goodness, that would be just light me up. That is the dream. Is every Canadian team is playing every night, or every Canadian team's playing another Canadian team every night. Huge fan bases, Canadian hockey pops off, Sportsnet makes unreal money, and away we go. That is what you'd be looking at, and that would be the dream. That would be the dream, because the Canadian division, yeah, you know what? Realistically, who do we have to stack up against? Probably the Habs, Canucks, Leafs, and Flames. So there's 5 of us. Jets are probably in there somewhere as well. Probably interchange one of those teams, but somebody's going to finish 7th, somebody's going to finish 1st, and 5 other teams will finish somewhere in between there. But as you know from other divisions, and the way it works is essentially the top 3 move on as division winners. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Edmonton Oilers in the Canadian division stand a very good chance of being top 3, especially if they were top 2 and the Canucks and Flames were below them in the standings this year. So keep that in mind as well. The Oilers stand a very good chance in any scenario that finds them in a Canadian division. And I'm so excited for such an idea, because that is what we have long waited for, is just to make Canadian hockey matter again, and that would definitely make Canadian hockey matter again. Think about that. Like I said, every single night, a Canadian matchup. You get the Leafs, Habs, like it used to be back in the day. You get the Oilers, the Flames, like it used to be back in the day. Heck, reignite that Flames-Canucks battle back in the day. You want to go way back in the day before I existed on this planet. How about the Oilers and the Jets from the WHA years, right? Like, oh my goodness, there are so many storylines within every context of a Canadian NHL division for the upcoming NHL season that could make it so much fun for us as Oilers fans, every Canadian hockey fan. And then, of course, you know what? If you don't pay attention to American hockey, it really doesn't dang well affect you, because you don't have to. You got 7 teams up north all battling each other all season long that you could potentially be watching every single night. And that is an absolute dream scenario. So then, of course, you've got the AHL situation, which I'd hope, let me tell you, I hope the AHL gets creative with TV rights this year, because if they allow, like, say, Sportsnet to broadcast the AHL games for the Canadian teams against each other, wow, light me up. Imagine the scope of prospect knowledge everybody could get if they're watching Philip Broberg, if they're watching, I don't know who else, like Dmitry Samarukov, whoever ends up being on the farm club, Tyler Benson. Raphael Lavoie is actually the best example, Olivier Rodrigue, but I think he's staying in Austria for the full year. Like, there is a ton of guys on that minor league team that would be so exciting to watch the night after the Oilers play, and then the next night the Oilers play, and the next night they play, and then bang, 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 let's go, right? Lots of hockey every single night of the week, and let me tell you, I am just over the moon with such a crazy, awesome idea. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. I know I've been down and out the past couple of days, upset at how free agency went and how some people took it, but let me tell you, this is a unanimous, awesome idea we can all get behind. I am up on out of here. I'll catch you a little bit later on tonight, but thanks for tuning in, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. Catch you later.